Hi, this is Jamie,
And this is Erin with Fic Fair,
and we're talking virtual book signings today. We have a Q&A with Mindy McGinnis.
and we're going to talk about her debut novel, Not a Drop to Drink.
Hi, Jamie and Aaron. I know you guys were totally bummed out that the Dark Days tour wasn't coming anywhere near you, and most of my stops are in Ohio, where you aren't, so I'm glad we could do it this way.
Hi, Mindy. We're wondering where the idea for Not a Drop to Drink came from and why the focus on water as the critical factor.
The idea for Not a Drop to Drink came after I watched a documentary called Blue Gold, which is about a projected drinkable water shortage on our planet due to overpopulation. And it was really terrifying if you think about it, because you don't really ever think about there not being water. We use water every day, we drink it every day, we all have to have it in order to survive. And we can't make it unless you own a desalination plant. And I don't. I don't know about you. But I also don't live near the ocean, so even if I owned a desalination plant, it would be very poorly located. But anyway, I do have a pond in my backyard. It's really small, but it's there. And I thought, you know what, I'll be okay if it all goes to hell. I have the pond. So I went to bed that night with these thoughts, and I dreamt of teaching a young girl how to operate a rifle so that she could help me protect the pond. And I woke up and I thought, wow, I read a book in my head just now.
Okay, so Lynn isn't like any other female YA character, and we loved her evolution through the story. She's so closed off to everything but survival when we meet her. Was it hard to get in her head and get her story out?
I think it's really important to be realistic when you're writing characters that you want your readers to connect to. And realistically, Lynn would not be an incredibly likable person at the beginning of the novel. She was raised to be practically feral and prize her own life and her mother's life and their pond above all. And that kind of person wouldn't, you don't want to have her over for a sleepover. So I think that getting into her head at the beginning wasn't that hard for me, because it's a fairly simple worldview that she has. Making her change over a period of time was difficult because, again, I value realism and she needed to change slowly. She's not, doing like a 7-day personality detox and suddenly giving everyone Care Bears.
Mindy, as a YA librarian, do you think knowing what your kids were reading or looking for helped you create Not a Drop to Drink?
In some ways, yes, because I'm around the audience 40 hours a week and I know what they like, but at the same time, they like a wide array of things. They're no different than adult readers. There are some of them that love, Divergent or Hunger Games and other post-apocalyptic novels. And then there are some that really don't. They're not into it. So in the end, I just wrote the story. The story was in my head and it was going to come out the way it was going to come out. I was very fortunate, actually, because in the end I didn't have to engineer it into something that I felt was going to be commercially appealable. I felt that the concept already was, and I was able, I hope, to just write the story and let it be what it is without overthinking it.
All of the secondary characters seem to have a journey to make. Who was your favorite to write?
Oh, my secondary characters were a lot of fun. The easiest by far and my favorite to write was Stebbs. He was just a breeze. I mean, seriously, when he walked into a scene, the scene was taken care of. He had something to say and made people react to him, and it was magic. It was not, I didn't even have to write. As soon as he showed up, I was just typing. I mean, he was in charge, he ran the show, and he was great. Lucy was also a fun one to write because having this feral survivalist of a person that was Lynn, and then suddenly being handed this little 6-year-old who came from the city and had kind of a cushy life and doesn't really understand that she is absolutely supposed to respect Lynn and her way of life. I mean, Lucy doesn't understand that. She's just like, hey, I want to have fun. Let's go chase some stuff. And, Lynn's just like, you can't do it. You're going to get killed, kid. And they had this completely diametrically opposed ways of life and personalities. And just to have them around each other was a lot of fun.
One of my favorite characters in this book was Eli. I fell in love with him.
I loved him too.
It's hard not to fall in love with him. But what I really enjoyed about his story were the changes he goes through from the beginning to the end. Did you struggle at all with the romantic aspects of this story and with keeping it in check and not letting that part of it take over?
Eli is a sweet guy, and that's what Lynn needed. She was not gonna fall for a guy that showed up and was like, hey, I'm a man and I'm gonna take care of everything. It's like she would have shot him, whatever. But it's like Eli shows up and he doesn't know what's going on. And he's lost, he's a city boy, and she's like, great, this guy's gonna die. And that would kind of suck because he's pretty cute. So, but there are things that he can teach her too. And so they have a nice little relationship that is healthy and I hope believable. Actually, not allowing the romance to take over was not a problem because I pretty much am not interested in romance at all. It's just not me. I don't like reading it. I don't like writing it. It's not my thing. In fact, the opposite was true, where I had my readers, my critique partners and my beta readers and my agent and my editor, they're like, could you give them a little bit more time together? And in the end, it was actually made for a better, well-rounded novel. It allows Lynn to grow more, that relationship does, than I had originally intended it to. And I think that it does make for a more realistic situation of how a girl like that would react to a boy like that in that situation. And I think it's a nice little splash of romance for those of you that want it, and not too much for those of you that could really care less.
Okay, no spoilers here. We will not give away the end. But what we're wondering, Mindy, is did you always know how the story was going to end, or did it evolve as you wrote it?
When it came, it's really hard to talk about this without spoiling it, but I don't want to be that person that doesn't actually answer the question either. Okay, the scene in particular that you're probably talking about, I knew that bad things were going to happen. I didn't know who they were going to happen to. And when it happened naturally. That's what the story wanted. And I'm probably going to have to apologize for it the rest of my life.
Mindy, can you tell us a little bit about your writing process? Are you a plotter or are you a pantser?
That's awkward.
I'm funny with my writing. I don't plot. I don't outline. I don't do any of that stuff. I generally know the first line and the last line of the book before I even sit down to write it. I have an idea of what's going to happen in between, but I don't try to control it. I just let it tell itself. So I sit down and I put my hands on the keyboard and I start typing, and the story happens, and I write it linearly from beginning to end. Like I said, I knew you guys were totally bummed out that Dark Days wasn't coming near you. So we're going to attempt to sign your book virtually. Oh, sorry ladies.